What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, and today we are talking about elemental primaries in Destiny. Now, I've kind of had these ideas for a while now, and some of you may have actually heard me mention them in a stream or something, but I've been really thinking about this a lot more lately because of heroic strikes. Now, heroic strikes were pretty recently updated in that the fact that they added modifiers to heroic strikes. So from week to week, heroic strikes are going to be very different depending on their modifiers. And the modifiers that have been added include all of the different elemental burns. And for the past 2 weeks, it's been arc burns. So everyone's been whipping out the Zalo or Zahalo or Zashmalo or whatever the hell it's actually pronounced as, but they've been whipping out the supercell and going absolutely apeshiz in the heroic strike playlist, and it's been an absolute blast doing so. And so it really got me thinking about elemental primaries, because in year 2, the Zalo supercell is the only elemental primary that you're able to use. Whereas before the Taken King in year 1, elemental primaries were pretty common. Every single raid weapon for the Vault of Glass and for Crota's End was elemental, even the primaries. So you had a great abundance of elemental weapons that people would use all the time, different ones depending on which activity you're doing, which burn it was, etc. So then the question comes up, was removing elemental primaries with the Taken King the right thing to do? Or is there a more intelligent way to add back into the game elemental primaries that won't absolutely destroy the loot system? Because the main reason given for the removal of elemental primaries by Bungie themselves is that elemental primaries drastically reduce the variety of the loot system, because all you were using in PvE was elemental primaries over and over and over again. And guys, Bungie on this part is absolutely right. They totally did limit diversity within the game. I remember back before the Taken King, all I would use was Fatebringer, just over and over and over again, almost no matter what I was doing, unless you were doing, you know, a solar burn or something else, then you would use something else. But it was pretty much, you know, Fatebringer, Fatebringer, Fatebringer. Sometimes you bring out the Vision of Confluence, again, if it was solar burn, but you really didn't stray off of the select few handful of elemental primary raid guns when you were playing Destiny prior to the Taken King. So it does make sense from Bungie's perspective to eliminate this by removing the elemental primaries and therefore greatly diversifying the loot system. And as a result of this, the loot system is pretty diversified. You see a lot more weapons being utilized right now, you know, in year 2 going on to year 3 than you did prior to the Taken King. Again, it was the few elemental primary raid weapons over and over and over again. It would be very strange if someone was using a non-elemental primary. Now, the reason for this going into it is really more embedded into the code of the game. The fact of the matter was, when you use an elemental primary, the reason people constantly use elemental primaries was that there's literally no downside for using it. If I had an arc primary like the Fatebringer and I shot a void shield, it would do the exact same damage as if I shot that void shield with a normal kinetic weapon. This is obviously not really a good idea. They probably should have made it so that if you shot a void shield with an arc weapon, it would do less than normal damage. So the incentive for using a kinetic weapon was that you would do very consistent damage. You wouldn't do any bonus damage, but you also wouldn't do any less damage than usual. But this, again, is pretty embedded into the code. I'm not sure they could change this in time for Destiny. Maybe something in Destiny 2 to look forward to. So, was removing elemental primaries from Destiny with the Taken King a good idea? Well, again, it certainly did improve the weapon diversity of the game, but it also had some unintended consequences. One of the main consequences was that it made raid weapons feel a lot less special. You know, I can name so many of the different Vault of Glass raid weapons. The Prettiest Revenge, the Prettiest Timepiece, the Found Verdict, the Fatebringer, the Vision of Confluence, you've got the Praetorian Foil, among others. So it's very easy to go and name all of these awesome, you know, if you ask so many Guardians who've been playing since year 1, you say Found Verdict or, you know, Fatebringer or Vision of Confluence, they just get chills, right? Because they're like such amazing, you know, awesome raid weapons that people remember. They were just so fun to use. They were so good. And then you have the Anguish of Dresden auto rifle, which can barely hit something right in front of its face. And, you know, you just don't have the same degree of specialness. You don't have the same degree of, like, really wanting a raid weapon because they actually aren't that amazing. You know, it really did take away some of the desire to go after certain pieces of loot. But even with that being said, I still believe that improving diversity is more important. So when you look at the game before and after the Taken King, I think it was the right decision to remove primaries as they were. However, that's not the end of it, because I believe that you could add back in elemental primaries into Destiny without ruining the loot system and keeping the diversity as strong as it is right now. And here's how to do it. As I've stated before, the main problem with elemental primaries is that it limits the only guns you use in PvE to a small select number, but you can simply expand this number by expanding the means of which you can get an elemental primary. How about have all of the new raid weapons for the Rise of Iron spawn with elemental properties? This is going to greatly improve them, make them more desirable, and make them actually feel like special, awesome raid weapons. But also, how about you just have some sort of exotic drop, or perhaps even something that Xur could sell for 20 or 30 strange coins that you can actually go and buy or go out and loot an arc elemental charge or a solar elemental charge, and these would be actual items that you could go and loot, maybe for beating a nightfall, maybe just again from purchasing from Xur, and then you could take this item and apply it to any gun in the game and it would turn it into an elemental gun of that element. So if you've got the absolute god roll Grasp of Malak pulse rifle that you love to use in every scenario, you can go and buy the Arc Elemental Charge from Xur and apply it to your Grasp of Malak, and then you're going to have an Arc Grasp of Malak. That would completely fix the diversity issue, because you're allowing any gun in the game that is currently being used to be upgraded into an elemental version of itself, therefore including elemental primaries into the game, but also keeping the diversity that's currently in the game as well. You'd also still have raid weapons feeling very special, because they would automatically spawn with these elements. You wouldn't actually go and have to spend the extra resources in order to get these certain elemental charges and then apply them to the weapons you like. But again, you can still do that, and that's what keeps up the diversity. It would also be cool, I think, to have super small chances of elements spawning on normal weapons. So let's say you take an engram to the Cryptarch, you decrypt it, and it's a Hawksaw. Guess what? That Hawksaw, maybe it has a 2%, 5% chance to spawn with an element, and then you can get a solar Hawksaw. I mean, why not? If it's a really low chance, it would kind of be like getting the God Roll Hawksaw, which is already a pretty low chance for all the stars to align anyways, so why not just kind of add one more interesting and awesome element of diversity and loot into the game? Additionally, let's not forget that reintroducing elemental primaries into Destiny would really let Bungie be more creative when it comes to designing its exotics. Look at how awesome the Supercell is. How much less awesome would that gun be if it didn't do arc damage, if it didn't shoot electric bullets, if it wasn't pulsing with electricity? How many awesome ideas have Bungie come up with, like flamethrowers or, you know, laser cannons and all these sweet ideas that they had to scrap because they were like, oh wait, we can't do that because we would have to make it solar or else that wouldn't make any sense, and we're not doing elemental primaries anymore. I just don't want that to ever happen. I would want Bungie to be unrestricted in its creativity. Furthermore, speaking of the Xylo Supercell, that gun really shows that it was the only elemental gun in the game, and aside from when it's arc burn right now in the Heroic Strikes, it really never took over the game. Again, it was the only elemental primary you could use in year 2, and for just about a year it's been in the game and been good, but not incredibly overpowered. The only thing you see in Strikes is not the Xylo Supercell, and I think that really goes to show that people are more willing to use other guns just randomly in Destiny than just utilizing elemental primaries, especially if they were reintroduced with the ideas I brought up before, like being able to get the elemental charges and apply them to any gun, and also have random guns spawn with very small chances of being elemental, to even more so improve diversity. So that's what I think about elemental primaries in Destiny. I do think they could be reintroduced, and if they were done intelligently and done with some of the stuff that we talked about today, I think that they would work. But what do you guys think? Do you think that elemental primaries could be reintroduced into Destiny? And if so, how would you do it? Now that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found it interesting. Now if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and sharing this video. Now if you want to see more Destiny content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickHackus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.